the Talking Michigan Transportation Podcast. I'm Jeff Cranston. By now, just about every one of us has received a scam text on our cell phone saying that we have an unpaid bill for a tolling facility. It's a big problem in Michigan and other states. At MDOT, we've done some creative things to try to educate the public. The Attorney General's office has also been helpful. So in my research, I discovered a real specialist in this area, Dr. J. Michael Skiba, who is a program chair for fraud management at Colorado State University Global, and he's also known as Dr. Fraud. And he's done media all over the country, really all over the world, talking about this. He has a real passion for trying to alert people to these kinds of scams and tell them why you shouldn't click on or answer a text or email or anything claiming to be soliciting an unpaid toll. It's especially troubling that this is happening in Michigan, where we don't have any toll roads. We have a few toll bridges, but obviously people have easy passes and things when they travel in other states. And so they easily think if they get one of these texts that they must be behind on a toll from travels somewhere else, and they think it's only a few dollars. So I'd rather just pay this and not be hassled, and they don't realize that this smishing scam is just an attempt to get their information, obviously to get their credit card or banking information. So before Dr. Skiba joins the conversation, I wanted you to hear some brief audio from a video that Director Wiefrick of MDOT recorded alerting the public to this scam, and then you'll hear from Dr. Skiba. I hope you enjoy the conversation.
Government agencies will not request personal information through email, over the phone, or text.
Dr. J. Michael Skiba, who is known better in the world of fraud detection as Dr. Fraud, thank you for taking time to talk about this. As you know, Michigan, like many states, and I think this is actually a worldwide phenomenon, has been hit hard with these tolling text scams. And I've seen some interviews where you offer some really good insight on the psychology of why people bite on this. And I think those of us who are naturally skeptical about such things kind of scratch our heads and think, why would anybody take that seriously? So can you talk about that?
Yeah, definitely, Jeff. And thanks for having me. First off, great to be here. I think it's so interesting because what I find is that scams are seasonal, right? It shifts throughout the year. So back around come September, you're going to have back to school type scams. Come the holidays, you have shipping scams. Valentine's Day, you have your flowers have been delivered scams. It literally goes the gamut. Now, what we usually see in the summer is we see spikes in travel, of course. So then, you're going to see Airbnb scams. You're going to see scams related to airlines. But this year, they tried a new flavor on it. They figured they'd go back to the old, good old American road trip and target us on our Easy Pass. So, and it really started probably about 2-3 months ago. Kind of coming on everyone's radar. I started hearing things, getting asked, from media circles and others, kind of what I was seeing. And it just has grown massively. I saw a statistic the other day that said that this type of scam, this particular flavor related to Easy Pass and tolls, has increased 900% since January, which is like phenomenal. And I'll be honest with you, Jeff, I think it's probably double, triple that, because, that's just based on what? A lot of people don't even report it. So, that's just based on the stats they know. So, literally, as you can tell, it's just full court press on this right now. So what they're doing is a couple things that's happening here, which is why this is such an issue. Is one, you can't go anywhere without hearing the term AI, right? Even a coffee shop. It's just everywhere. But AI has been used in fraud scams for years, but specifically of late, they have really, really honed in their efforts on it. And they're just bombarding people with could be email, could be a text, or could be a phone call, from wherever state that you reside in. They're claiming to be the, Thruway Authority, Travel Authority, Highway Authority, Attorney General's office. They're trying all different kinds of flavors to try to get you to bite. So they're putting out all these lines out there, but they're just coming at us consumers at every single angle. So they're just trying to manipulate that. Now they're using AI. Back in the old days, I say in the old days was only like 5 years ago. A lot of this stuff was manual, right? They'd have to go to websites, find out, Jeff Cranston, how's his first name, last name, where does he travel, does he ever, a lot of OSINT, open source investigative tactics they use. Now they use AI, so they can attack databases and maybe download everyone that has had a toll violation, let's say. There's things that they can access through the dark web, and they just bombard people, and they constantly evolve their tactics almost by the millisecond with AI. So people, it's just literally like they're getting. It's kind of like being in the middle of a water balloon fight with when it's 20v1. It's just like every angle they're just bombarding you with. So that's the issue. And what they do is they use these very deep psychological tactics that have, again, been used for hundreds of years in fraud and scams. Sense of urgency. They're using, sense of authority. They're using legitimacy and credibility through the way that these scams look. They're visual. Some of them have QR codes. They look real official. So, really, from the gamut of when a consumer first gets phished or texts or smished or whatever it is, right, and then they open it and it looks authentic, and then, hopefully they don't, but if they do engage, it sends them down a wrong path. So, there's so many things to talk about here, but people are just being completely bombarded with this. And because it's new, there's only a few segments out there media-wise, and even though the AGs, I've seen the attorney generals, and even again the highway authorities, transportation authorities of every state have put out notices. The FTC has put out a warning. It's still not reaching the masses, so it's kind of still a new scam with a new flavor that a lot of people just aren't keying on. So
Well, yeah, I've got people coming to me that I absolutely think would know better, and they think it's legit. And I think part of what I know you've talked about, the psychology of this, and I should back up and let you talk a little bit about how your work in criminal justice at Colorado State University kind of informs your passion for this topic. But people think, it's only a few bucks. I would rather just pay that and not be hassled. And they don't realize that it's not about the few bucks, right?
mhm, yes, 100%. And so what they're doing, that's another psychological tactic, is because it's usually a low dollar amount, right? It's usually 4.99, 3.99, even 99 cents I've seen, right? So people literally, right, they're like, it's not worth it. Why am I gonna fight and do this and that? I'm just gonna click pay now, right? But the thing here is that in cases like this, yes, if they do get 99 cents, a million times, that's gonna of course add up. But really what they're looking for is for you to engage, because what really is a lot more valuable than that is your personal information. Okay, so that email was valid, that phone number was valid, that what your name was, where you are. They're going to kind of, once you do engage, and what that does, again, getting back to AI. So this is what happens when they send out a billion scam texts a second, right? They don't know. It's all algorithms, so they don't know. Some of these aren't even real numbers, right? So that computer does not know, but it's trained that once someone engages, all right, so let's say you get it, Jeff, and you click on something, okay, maybe not even pay now, but just like, click here to view your bill or something like this, right? That immediately gets back to their AI system and says, hey, I'm a human. And it's kind of like, like when win like the old skee ball, remember those? Like, it's kind of like the skee ball, like the bells go off and all the tickets come out. Like, that's exactly what it's like, right? You become super popular. You at that point get a person on their end, and then it becomes human to human, and that's a lot harder, because then, they again put that full press on you with one person, sometimes two, three, four. Sometimes they have a whole team, working, trying to, continue on that scam with you. So it's kind of like they're pulling, slowly pulling you down that path. So that's what it is, right? That's one of the tactics. It's usually low. There's a massive sense of urgency there, right? So they usually say something like, okay, this is past overdue. If this is not paid within 24 hours, your license is going to be revoked. or you will be ticketed by the state police, or I mean something like this. They're gonna really get your emotions in it. So that's going to offset, your logical thinking, and you're going to, be more apt to actually, pay that amount.
So a couple of things that we've done, and we're trying to be creative here and thinking of everything. And our Attorney General in Michigan has also been good on the messaging on this. And you mentioned that other AGs have done that. We had our director, make a brief video to share with media with her explaining, with him explaining why you shouldn't click on this, don't engage, it's a scam. Short and sweet, hopefully something that would resonate with people. And on our dynamic message signs, the boards that you see on the freeways, we have a real tight message that says, be aware that toll texts are scams. Again, we hope that helps. Do you know of other agencies, tolling authorities or state DOTs, or like the International Bridges and Tolling Tunnel Association, any group that's doing anything creative that you think is particularly effective?
I've personally been involved in, being native to New York. I mean, and of course, all the travel that occurs there. I mean, they have a lot of challenges too because of all the bridges, going in and out. They have, the toll roads, of course, all over. But basically, what has happened is they have involved even law enforcement. Okay, so it's kind of like a holistic view where, even law enforcement is putting out notices. It's kind of, getting back to like the community policing element of it. Just trying to do those notices, informing the people, because sometimes that more, the local police departments can kind of maybe grab a reach instead of, I mean, the average consumer might not have a daily or weekly contact, let's say, with the AG's office, but they might be just randomly, they might see their police department or police officers, once a week or once every few days or so. So that is something I think that I have seen where they've involved other law enforcement and even criminal justice agencies, Department of Criminal Justice New York, or any other kind of, like, I don't want to say level two, but those that might not be directly involved, but definitely have a strong reach to kind of help spread the word. But I think starting with what you're doing is fantastic. Absolutely. Sending as much notifications out, billboards, definitely a great idea. I know, even strategic placement of billboards is important too. Those high traffic areas, which is again where your Department of Transportation can come in. Whether it is bridges, whether it's right at certain toll areas. I know that could be in Michigan. Of course, you guys have a ton of people coming in and out, during the summer months. So that could be something strategic too to look at.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. We will continue the conversation right after a quick break.
The Michigan Department of Transportation reminds you to slow down, follow all signs, and pay attention when driving through work zones, because all employees deserve a safe place to work. Work zone safety. We're all in this together.
Talk a little bit about, how you became sort of an expert in this field. What kind of feeds your passions in this area?
I tell you, Jeff, it really, I just, when I started my career as an investigator, I was an SIU investigator based in New York. And honestly, I really, it massively bothered me. I lost sleep at night when I learned that someone was tricked or scammed. In those early days, it was really the insurance companies. I just, people were committing crime against the insurance company. It really bothered me. Why people do this? And I kind of just, that fueled the passion of academics and research, which, led me to, pursue the MBA, PhD, and then teach in the area. But then also always wearing the second hat of being a very active practitioner globally, even for the UN and Interpol. So like, I think I don't like to see people get taken advantage of, whether it's, my neighbor, or whether it's, a huge insurance company, or the state of Michigan, so it just bothers me that these groups are targeting these individuals. And I think now the level, again, working, international and for these government agencies, again, specifically for the UN, I just came off a 3-year project on and off where they were asking me to consult, and these groups that are precipitating these crimes that you are seeing in Michigan, these are highly organized overseas criminal groups. Many of them have ties to the cartels, the terrorist cells. I mean, really, I've been there. I've seen it, and it's extremely disturbing how there's a collaboration, if you will, on the dark side, and that's they're using that. So all the money, is just going to these areas overseas in these different areas to fuel all kinds of just horrific, disturbing crimes. And that's what I think bothers me is that it's just really starting to escalate. And I mean, I get calls really, Jeff, probably, I wouldn't say once a day, probably two, 3 times a week, just from, I don't mean professionally, I mean just friends, family, just like, oh man, I just got scammed here and I don't know what to do, or, my grandmother just fell for this one. I mean, that's what bothers me, and it kind of hits home, and that's really where I think, we can maybe, utilize whatever resources we have, and just really, just like you're doing, just spread the word as much as you can. I think that's really hopefully gonna help.
Yeah, I think what really bothers me and my colleagues is obviously any scam, any crime, any vulnerable victim being defrauded bothers us. But this something particularly heinous about this because we know who they're preying upon, and yeah, it's very troubling. So
Yep. Yep.
yeah, I guess real quickly, just talk a little bit about where you take this from here. I mean, it's not going to be
Yeah.
stopping soon, and it sounds like the investigators, no matter how good they are, they're not going to be able to pinpoint this to any specific geographic area, right?
Yep. No, yeah, it's I mean, there's two angles to look for, right? As far what I would say is from a consumer perspective, number one, protect yourself as much as possible. So I always recommend a couple things, technology and the human element. So first off, create that concentric circle. It's kind of like like Secret Service. If they're protecting someone, they have circles of layers of security. This is exactly what you want to do with scams and fraud. Is that start with your phone. The apps that you have. Make sure you're not sharing things. Make sure your rideshare app is not always open, so you're sharing your information all the time. The settings that come in, all your emails and texts, mark them as spam and things when they come in. Your internet service, expand out to your home. Your internet service providers, look at those. Like Ring cameras and Alexa, things like that. I mean, really tighten down your, quote unquote house from a personal level. So use technology to kind of limit the number of these instances that are getting through in the first place. Okay. Secondly, I think it's the human element. And here's the thing, when I did types of training, even really probably last summer, I mean, like 6 months, a little more than 6 months, maybe 8 months ago, I would tell people, verify before you click, right? Verify, check this and that. Now my message is basically in all caps, in bold, do not engage at all. Don't click, don't reply, don't engage. Because in this era, I mean, if there is an issue, someone will reach out to you. Okay. So for example, if you are default on your Easy Pass payments, right? And you just ignore, there will be a time where there will be a legitimate phone call probably made to you, right? Or you're going to get something in the mail that is maybe, legit. So there is still legitimacy to some of these situations, but I would say 99.99 to infinity of the times, these are all scams. So I would say do not click, and it's very important to not touch anything. So don't even, like, if it's on a Outlook window, don't even open the window. Don't expand the reading pane, because that could be an indicator that, hey, this person's a human. Just delete right away. Don't touch unsubscribe. Don't touch this is not me. I mean, that's another, trick that they're using too, is kind of like it's a chess match, right? So, Jeff, you're going to get a text that says, hey, Dr. Fraud, your default on your Easy Pass, and click here if this is not you, of course, right? You might be tempted to click here, right? And that's again just a trick. Okay, so you have to be careful. You have to really, really be careful. So I would say, from a personal perspective, that's the best approach. Law enforcement, really, it's going to be a matter of just collaboration, just like we saw, even the post-COVID scams, right? It's just a matter of kind of collaborating with law enforcement and getting a front together. So, on a state level in Michigan, kind of, maybe creating a certain, or having certain task forces just specific to incidents like this, where let's say it does pivot next winter to Christmas, holiday shipping scams, the task force can immediately pivot on that, with plan A, B, C, D, D, contact this person. So that's another strategy I think that's going to really help us.
Yeah, yeah. So, are you still at Colorado State?
I am correct. Yes, yes. So I'm department chair there. That's correct. Yep. I'm
Okay.
department chair. Yep. CSU Global. That's correct. Yep.
So did
So
you
department.
kind of create that specialty, and how did you come up with the Dr. Fraud brand? Was that yours?
So actually, yeah. So when I started at Colorado State University, I was actually teaching, because I'm credentialed to teach business and finance as well with the MBA. So I always do teach a little business, but then that of course gets me into a little of the cyber world, fraud world, which is where I've always sat. So when I took over as department chair, we developed a whole fraud and financial crime program, which is what of course my wheelhouse is, and that has grown into a lot of different areas as well. And that's just again a really fantastic university. I've been with them for 10 years. And yeah, the Dr. Fraud, that really kind of happened about, I think it was right after I got my PhD. I mean, it was kind of like a thing where, I mean, there's Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, et cetera, and it was kind of funny how it started. I was at a conference actually in Vienna, Austria, an international conference, and some folks had just been kind of talking, and the guy that was introducing me, he was Italian. He had a very, very heavy accent. He was kind of trying to get all these words out to introduce me, and it kind of came out as Dr. Fraud. It was like a Dr. Michael Skiba, the fraud, blah, blah. And some people, when I came off stage, were kind of calling me Dr. Fraud. And I'm like, wow. It was like later that day, I'm like, this is kind of cool. I wonder if this is kind of like my alter ego. So really, it started, as just, a little snippet. And then it just grew into kind of the brand of again, I call it my alter ego of trying to, spread the word and do some good and be purposeful in again preventing those vulnerable parties. So that's been quite an adventure, Jeff. So
No, but I think it's great that you're doing what you're doing and giving media around the country, especially a go-to. That CNBC story you participated in, I think, is probably the most comprehensive thing I've seen on this topic, and
great.
It was very, very, very good. Is there anything else you want to say to people about this topic? And I mean, you went over the best tips, I think, but anything else?
Yeah, I think just in short, again, just do not click. I mean, that I guess would be my message is that if enjoy your road trips, hit the road. Michigan's got some of the most fantastic scenery in the country. So, hit the road. Don't be scared. But just again, you have to be careful. Don't be paranoid. Just be cautious. That's how you have to be these days. And just kind of hit all those security things I talked about and just spread the word. Just honestly, sometimes just telling your friends and family, maybe your parents that are over 75 and aren't familiar with phone usage. I mean, just things like that are really going to help. So I think just kind of us spreading the word a little bit, but again, not to be paranoid, just still have some fun out there, I think. So.
Well, I certainly appreciate your plug for our beautiful state, especially coming from someone who obviously has spent some time in upstate New York and in Colorado, which are both beautiful places too. So thank you for that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, you guys have some fantastic fishing there. So
yes. Well,
love it.
Thank you so much for doing this and for taking the time to do this, and good luck as you keep spreading the word. And I think this is one of those things we're going to have to learn to live with. So we're probably going to have to accept that it's all about containment and not about getting rid of it entirely.
Correct, Jeff. Yeah, it was really a pleasure being on the podcast and everything. Really great job. I'm more than happy to cooperate in the future if you need anything else. I'm definitely here for you. So.
All right, thank you. I'd like to thank you once more for tuning in to Talking Michigan Transportation. You can find show notes and more on Apple Podcasts or Buzzsprout. I also want to acknowledge the talented people who help make this a reality each week, starting with Randy Debler, who skillfully edits the audio, Jesse Ball, who proofs the content, Courtney Bates, who posts the podcast to various platforms, and Jackie Salinas, who transcribes the audio to make it accessible to all.